despite signing a new contract in the summer, an extension, of course. He could be yours for 65 million, should he choose to leave. So off the back of Morgan Gibbs-White in the summer and all the issue around Spurs, it's interesting how these things just suddenly pop up, isn't it? And the news is out there that he could be available. Let's delve into that and other matters, including Cristiano Ronaldo up the White House, with our very own Ben Jacobs. Hiya, Ben.
Afternoon, gents.
Is this leaked? Is it going to annoy Bournemouth's ownership, or I mean, how does it suddenly?
By his agent.
How does it get? Well, I mean, we're not suggesting that, but how does it get out there? This sort of stuff, Ben.
Yeah, it can get out for various reasons. I wouldn't presume to second guess another journalist's source, but remember, talkSPORT first revealed there was a release clause. And I think that can be the first domino once it's out there through diligence in journalism from whatever side your source is on. It's a lot harder to then hide the number. In addition to that, sometimes before a window opens, it can be beneficial for even the selling club if they think that release clause is quite good value to have the number out there. Often the release clause is under some kind of protection, almost an NDA, but not in every instance. Sometimes a club knows that the release clause number is so astronomical and on excellent payment terms that they'll want it out there to ward off the market or to invite an offer that's below it but still great value for money. Sometimes a player side will want it out there if they can legally get it in the media without breaching terms because they want to move at a certain point in time. So I think in this particular instance, it was logical because 65 million is a decent number for the Bournemouth side to perhaps be bracing themselves for offers. And even though it'd be reluctant, Semenyo could leave mid-season. And when that kind of narrative is at play, and Bournemouth also might be having to see replacements, the market starts to understand very quickly that the player could leave. And that's probably why we've gone from a talkSPORT exclusive that there is a release clause, but not putting a number on it, to now getting about 6 weeks before the January window opens and being able to tell you that it's 65 million.
Now, we understand that could even come down in the summer. The danger is he has a good World Cup and then suddenly maybe... I don't know quite how it's going to work, but he's not at AFCON, which is an appeal for January because Ghana haven't made it, because that would have been an issue.
Yeah.
So do you expect him to move in January, or do you think he would wait to the summer? I imagine if you're his advisors, you're saying, look, there could be more options in the summer for you. That's if you want to leave at all. I mean, Bournemouth are going very well, and he seems very happy there.
Yeah, I think he signed the new contract, and the only way he was going to do that over the summer when there was interest from Manchester United and Tottenham was with these two release clauses, or one release clause that diminishes in number in the summer. So it's actually 60 million and then 5 million in add-ons for January, and then it goes down between now and the summer. It will not drop below £50 million. And some sources say it doesn't even drop that significantly at all. And therefore, the price in January and the price in the summer, even though the latter will be lower, may not be that different. And I think if you're Semenyo, you're just going to, first of all, understand that if somebody wants you, it can be out of Bournemouth's control. And therefore, if the clause is triggered, he might be able to take his pick. But you're absolutely right that he's scoring, he's settled, and to wait until summer will not be that big a deal as far as the player is concerned. So he's in a very privileged position where he can have his cake and eat it. And then the last thing to say is that if it is to be in January, we won't be talking about this all throughout the January window, because only the first half of the window, broadly speaking, when the clause can be triggered, and that's intentional to give Bournemouth the opportunity to replace him. So if this is going to happen, I think like with Matheus Cunha before the window opened, when it was obvious Man United were going to trigger the clause, we might learn of a potential suitor in December. And if he leaves, it could happen very quickly.
Yeah, this is Bournemouth's business model, isn't it? They develop players, bring them on, then sell them on. It must be so frustrating being a Bournemouth fan because you get to a certain level. They're obviously having a good season, and then your best players get sold. We've seen it with Southampton, and we know it. Yeah. It does seem to have a finite point to it.
It's a good point, Charlie. You can run out of luck. So far, Bournemouth's recruitment has managed to, fill in the gaps of players like Kirkes and others leaving as they did in the summer, and you're not really seeing the join. But you can only kind of do that for so long. They won't want to lose him. Certainly not for what people might. If certainly in the summer,
who sets the fee?
Well, I mean,
who sets that?
Let's ask Ben that question. I mean, imagine it's the player and the agent. They want a sell-on clause within a contract, and they negotiate it with the club, don't they? The level of that.
Yeah, my understanding in this case is that Manchester United and Spurs came calling in the summer. Semenyo decided to stay, but there was a clear stipulation on the player side that there must be both the January and the summer release clause. So the starting point of can I have a clause came from the Semenyo side, to my understanding, and then the number is just mutually agreed. So sometimes you see it more in Spain where everyone's got a release clause. The number's simply sky high, and it's almost saying you either grow into an astronomical valuation or the club holds a lot of the cards if they want to say no. In other instances, like with Matheus Cunha, it's set at market value and the player's really happy with the number and pushing for a certain number because they know that a lot of clubs are just going to trigger that clause because it's not one lump sum payment. With Cunha it was 3 and 62.5 million. When you think of Brian and Bumo going for 71 million, Cunha would have been happy with that valuation and thinking I'm definitely going to get a summer move and this clause is not going to be a hurdle. So the number will always have debate. If it's too high, the player doesn't agree to it. If it's too low, the club doesn't agree to it. But there's usually a middle ground that you can find. And in this case, the fact it goes down in the summer tells you that if Semenyo commits to Bournemouth for all of this season, which is Bournemouth's hope at least, then by the time the summer comes along, he'll be fantastic value to somebody.
Yeah, so I mean, again, if he has a good World Cup, he smokes out some big clubs around Europe, he's got a lot more interest, a lot more options potentially. Just away from this finally, Ben, Cristiano Ronaldo is heading to the White House apparently today for an audience with Donald Trump, or probably the way he sees it, the other way round. I've got this theory that he won't want to miss any of the games in the World Cup, and I thought he might ask for a presidential pardon from Gianni Infantino, but it seems he's cutting out the middleman, as Charlie said, and going right to the top for his presidential pardon. And we know that Donald Trump likes to tell Gianni Infantino what to do, like where to hold the draw for the World Cup next month. So maybe he's going to get his wish. Maybe we'll see him in all 3 games at the World Cup after today.
Yeah, Trump can do a lot of things, but I'm not so sure that he can recede red cards. So that punishment may be out of the president's control. But we heard yesterday that Trump's prepared potentially to move venues if he perceives them to be unsafe. So it's going to be fascinating between now and the draw and in the days that follow to see whether the roadmap for the World Cup has the venues as listed or if there are any last minute changes. And then today, even though the Ronaldo side are not yet officially confirming it, several sources within the White House and around the player have confirmed that he's expected to attend a meeting. And it's also on a day, interestingly, when the US president is set to host the Saudi Crown Prince Mohammed bin Salman in the Oval Office as well. So we're kind of going to get a Saudi American and sports crossover. And we're going to learn that actually Cristiano Ronaldo is far more than a footballer in Saudi Arabia. And he's getting this crazy and amazing wage because he's promoting Saudi Arabia, including MBS's Vision 2030. And Saudi Arabia have, of course, qualified for the World Cup as well. So Ronaldo's in a really interesting position because everyone's just billing this as, can he win a World Cup? Can he represent Portugal at his last World Cup? And it's all about also getting towards that 1,000 goals. But whilst he's there in America, you could also argue in many ways he's representing Saudi Arabia, Saudi tourism, and then you have that crossover because 2034 the World Cup will go to Saudi Arabia and Ronaldo will now be a part of that as well. So the timing, the fact it's not just would you like to come to the White House as Cristiano Ronaldo, but it's actually would you like to come to the White House whilst also meetings are taking place with the Saudi Crown Prince. That tells you how embedded Cristiano Ronaldo is, not just as a footballer, but as a representative for Saudi Arabia.
Good stuff. Ben, good to talk to you as always. Thanks very much.
Ben.
Thanks, guys.
I'm sure we'll see pictures from the Oval Office a little bit later on. Don't forget
That is how I think it'll play out.
Oh,
Paul.
yeah.
I think Infantino will rescind all bans and all red cards just for that reason. I think he'll do that. He'll go, we want all
like an amnesty.
Yeah, like an amnesty. I think that's what he'll do because of Ronaldo. I think he'll go, let's get them all off.
What, up until this point? Players can't just go out there.
No, not now. But I think when it gets to it, I think they'll just rescind them all and go, you can all play.
Right.
That's how I think it'll work, Paul.
Okay.
Quote me on it. What time is it? 13:46.
Yeah. Never in a million.
Tuesday the 18th.